What's up with Nat? What's up with Nat? Do you ever watch that SNL skit? It's really What's Up With That. It's Kenan Thompson, and he does this skit where he's like a Steve Harvey type of host, but it's like a musical show. And the show is called What's Up With That. And so the theme song goes, ooh wee, what's up with that? What's up with that? And it's a whole thing. But I like to make it What's Up With Nat. Okay. And I now have students that sing that in their head when they come to class.
I'm going to have to go on YouTube and look at this.
I said, ooh wee, what's up with Nat? What's up with Nat? Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think you should quit Twiniversity and just become a singer.
No. Do you know how I know that I shouldn't?
How?
One of my favorite YouTube reviews is, could she just stop singing?
Oh.
I was reviewing the Larktail Wagon.
And you were singing?
I don't even remember singing because I interject the element of song wherever I go because it's joy. Yeah. And this guy had to yuck my yum, as my kids would say.
Jerk.
But it's funny because I love a bad review.
Oh, I know your favorite bad review.
What's my favorite bad review?
About the cannibalism?
That's the best. So, hi guys, I'm Nat from Twiniversity, and I am accompanied by Miss Lauren Oak of the Great Oak Tribe of the Island of Long.
Yes.
And I am not a cannibal. Are you a cannibal?
No.
Would you ever be? Who would we eat first out of all of our friends?
No one.
That's just great. You were so boring.
Oh, no.
You don't know who you would eat first out of your friends?
Monica. We'll eat Monica.
100% is Monica is who we eat first.
Yes.
I'm glad we're in agreement.
And she eats good, yummy stuff and drinks.
She does.
So she's probably all marinated.
Yes. She has good quality foods.
Yes.
I would 100% eat Monica first.
Yes, let's eat Monica.
I'm glad. See? And you were hesitant at first. I knew who we'd eat first.
I don't want to hang out with us now.
That's okay. She still will. She'll just know her place. She didn't know her place in society. It's fine. Yeah, she's got to go. Plus, she does yoga. So, I feel like that keeps her wiggly and limber. Yes. That's what I would say. But that's my favorite. Do you remember the part, why I was called a cannibal?
About the placenta encapsulation, right?
Yes. So it's a review on Goodreads, and I may have to actually find it to read it for us because I think that I need to. But yeah, I love me. Do you remember the review that I got of the podcast?
No.
My very, very, very first podcast review is something to the effect of, all she does is yell at her dog. Come on, Lauren. Did I yell at my dog once today?
Not that I witnessed.
Oh my God. Look, I'm literally on Goodreads and I'm Googling what's up with Nat.
That's your next book title.
Oh my gosh. I hope that I find
a diary of all the nonsense that goes on in your life every day and just sell it.
Oh, when we were talking about what are me and you going to talk about before the podcast, and I want to do this. I was trying to be very official and be this is what we're going to talk about and this is what we're going to do. And the whole Twiniversity team is absolutely not. We just want a glimpse into you and Lauren's life. I'm okay.
Because it's chaos and no one would believe it. If we sold a true life story of our lives, they'd be this is.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. Now, great.
Bleep that out.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate it. Now that just cost me another $10 or whatever it is. But what is the craziest thing that's happened in your universe this week?
This week? I don't think anything really crazy happened in my week. Last week, I had to be Ubered home from work because I fell ill out of the blue.
Yes. That wasn't good.
No. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me.
Yeah. That's so you didn't have the flu or anything?
No flu, no COVID, nothing. They sent out like another test to test for like 100 different viruses, nothing.
Yes. Anna too. She's home for a week and we still have no idea.
Yeah. So.
But on a bright side, I found the review.
Okay. I want to hear it.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to read you the whole review because it's a little long, but I do want to read this part. It has, the gentleman's name is Hassam, and I got 2 stars.
Okay. At least you got a star. Yeah.
I can't believe that with this horrible, horrible review that he gave me 2 stars. Okay, so what he talks about is how I recommend bribery. Okay, so he thinks that's I'm morally corrupted. And then and he says, I won't mention that she recommends borrowing, renting, or stealing stuff. Okay, now, for the record, I do recommend stealing stuff.
Yeah, like stuff at the hospital that your insurance is getting billed for.
Thank you. So it's not really stealing, but I use that word just to be funny.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm saying go hold the nurses up at knife point to get things. Oh my gosh. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Then he also says, what I dislike more is the obvious aesthetic language that she uses everywhere. Hold your baby and look at what you've created. Oh my God, who is the real creator?
What?
He's mad at me because God's the real creator.
Wow.
And so he's like, do you have a choice of his features, skin color, eye color, length? And I'm consistently referring to Mother Nature that is supposed to have a full and natural control of everything. This silly notion is consistently mentioned till the end of the book, not to mention her love and appreciation to same-sex families.
Oh.
Come on, Lauren. Okay, wait, here it is. Drum roll, please, Lauren. And it was so disgusting to read about eating your placenta. No, not as raw flesh, but after grinding and chewing his pills. Yuck, Mrs. Cannibal. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Honestly, I would just like to thank the Academy and Hassam for this wonderful review. But guys, I will tell you, I love same-sex families. I love single families. Yes. I love conventional, traditional, unconventional, whatever kind of family you are welcome in my home. You are welcome on my website. You are welcome to listen to my podcast. I challenge anybody who does it. I would like to go as far as to say, if you are in that much opposition of same-sex families, please delete me from your life. I am okay with that. I am sorry if I will continue. The only reason is not because I don't want you to be part of my life, but I don't want to continuously offend you. And I don't want you to ever be uncomfortable by the things that I say. Therefore, I do recommend that perhaps you don't come to Twiniversity as often, because we are always going to be inclusive. And if my inclusivity is going to make you uncomfortable, then I am very, very, very sorry. But I'm probably you're probably just we're not right for each other. Yeah. And that's an okay thing.
Yes. Because we're not for everybody.
No, we're definitely not for everybody. And that's okay. You know, that's fine. That's totally fine. I can't be everybody's cup of tea.
Exactly.
I would be very upset and I'll lose sleep over the fact that you don't love me, but that's a different story for a different day. But dude, the yuck, Mrs. Cannibal. Oh my gosh. I really can't. And also for the record, this is the original version of the book. But he did say for the second half of the book, it started making sense to me, despite so many things being obvious at first hand. Otherwise, I would have rated it 1 star. And I would like to read his final sentence. Yes. Time wasted.
I bet he wrote that before he had his kids. And then he had them, and now he probably has like one more, and he's like, oh my God, she was right.
Okay, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm adding him as a friend.
I think
I need to know.
we should have him on, and we should talk to him.
I literally
ask him what he feels now as a father of twins years later.
I think I'm going to do that. Okay, we're going to try. Okay, because I
read your review and I've been thinking it over for the last couple of years. Yes. Let's talk.
Yes, because I am a cannibalistic atheist heathen.
Witch doctor.
Okay, guys. So, anywho, back to our regularly scheduled podcast. I'm glad that I'm glad that you might think that this was an uplifting thing, because today's podcast is a little heavy.
Oh, okay.
So it's another interesting podcast. And this season, if I don't need therapy after every single episode this season, I feel like I'm winning. But I will also tell you yet another outstanding mom. Guess what?
She has twins.
Correct. She has twins.
Shocker.
Okay. So her name is Dana Rogney. And I will tell you that she had her twins at home.
Oh. Not on purpose or?
Not planned.
Okay.
Not planned at all. This is yet another episode with a trigger warning, I will tell you. So she had them very early. Okay. Very, very early. And it was an interesting story that not only was I interested in her story because it's just fascinating. It took her so long to get pregnant. And then she finally did. And then it was just one thing after the next. But I mean, she was pretty early. So I'm going to tell everybody right now, she delivered at 25 weeks, 5 days.
Wow.
So that's like just past viable.
Yes.
But good news.
Yeah.
Kids are kicking butt.
Amazing.
That's what I love is like you could listen to these stories, and if you listen to them, you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible. And I'm not saying that, first of all, I would never have an episode that if we didn't have an ending that I thought we could all handle as a team, that I would publish it, or I wouldn't publish it. It would really depend on what the situation is. Okay. But the people who often find us are the people who have unbelievably successful outcomes that want to share their journey and their experience.
Yep.
Did you find that you needed to tell people about the birth of the twins? I mean, you had a traumatic birth.
Yes, I do. I tell my clients a lot of the times if they're having a rough time, and, just not to be like scary or anything, but just to let them know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Yes, I had my girls at 32 weeks. They were in the NICU. There were issues, Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And me too. My equally as traumatic birth, and I was at 34 weeks, where it shouldn't be that traumatic. Like if you hear somebody made it to 34. But you know what's funny, Lauren, is that me and you would hear 32 weeks or even 29 weeks, and we would be like, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right? Even 25 weeks. I'm like, what state were you in? Okay, we're good. Like if I knew that you delivered in a level 4 NICU, like what happened?
Yeah.
But I will tell you that she delivered her babies at home with nobody there except her husband.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So at 25 weeks, she delivered these babies in the house. Wow. So like it's a story, and Dana is so sweet. And she just moved too. Like, I can't even believe that she's like, let's do a podcast interview in the middle of all these boxes.
Why not? That's how we roll.
That is how we roll. Oh my gosh. So are you ready to meet Dana?
Yes.
All right, guys, here is Miss Dana Rogney. Dana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Dana, you are one of our Twiniversity people who definitely have a wild and crazy birth story and are still on a wild and crazy adventure, right? They always say there's no one type of twin birth. And I think that for you, you definitely broke the mold on
Thank
this
you.
one. So you find out that you are expecting, and then you go to your scans and things are looking good. And then you find out that you're having a boy and a girl, which is my favorite type to have.
Yes.
But
yes, they're amazing.
I'm partial too. And then your pregnancy took a little unconventional, we'll put it nicely, turn. So tell us a little bit about that first moment when you found out that you were having twins, and walk us into your very out of the ordinary delivery day.
Thanks. Well, it started, it took us 3 or 4 years to even conceive. We were together since we were 19. We got married at 26, and a year later started trying. And then we were kind of doing the trying but not trying, and then got more serious about it, and nothing was happening. So after a year or 2 of that, I found out I had PCOS, and I was on metformin, but I never ended up doing any sort of fertility treatments. The only thing I did was metformin to help ovulate. So that still wasn't working. So we were planning to talk to the fertility specialist and start taking medication. And a month before that, my period was always irregular, but I kind of one day decided to take a test, which I did pretty much every month anyways. But I took a test, found out I was pregnant. And it was already crazy because it was right before we had pretty much given up, which they always say it's going to happen when you don't expect it to happen. So it finally happened. And we went to the first appointment it was supposed to be 8 weeks, but then when they did the ultrasound, it was only, I think, 7 weeks, 2 days, but found out it was twins. My husband was with me, and we were shocked. I think I just laughed. And I remember I was laying there getting checked, and the ultrasound tech was looking, and she had asked me before what my symptoms were. And I said, I wasn't feeling sick or having any nausea. And as she was checking, she didn't tell us it was twins. She just said, at first, I'm surprised you haven't been sick. And then we saw the other embryos show up. So that was amazing. And then the pregnancy was, going smoothly. I did find out at my first blood sugar test for diabetes that I was almost at gestation diabetes, but not.
Okay.
So they recommended diet change, and all I did was check my blood sugar. That was the only, they didn't even consider it a complication, but that was the only thing I had that was a little not the standard pregnancy, but they said that was normal for twins.
Okay.
So we found out at 20 weeks, it was a boy and a girl. Very exciting. The whole time I couldn't, I was just scared because I couldn't believe it was actually working out.
Yeah.
And then 24 weeks, we went in for a level 2 ultrasound. And that was recommended because at the 20 weeks, they saw a couple possible soft markers on my daughter, but it ended up that had no issue. When at 20 weeks, it ended up having a closer look. It was not correct. So the 4-week ultrasound was perfect.
Okay.
They measured my cervix. They checked my whole body. Every level was fine. Everything looked fine. No concerns. And that was, I think it was actually about 24 weeks, 3 days. So it was a few days after 24 weeks. And I ended up having them at 25.5. And I can go into it when you're ready, how that happened.
So now I know that you were saying that the night before your delivery that you had some back pain, and that you
Very
were
mild.
a little, you had a little constipation, and you were like, yeah, which is pretty typical, right?
Yeah.
For any pregnancy, especially a twin pregnancy. So you didn't really think anything of it. And considering that your previous scans were just ho-hum and nothing to write home about, there was literally no reason for you to think that anything was going on. Now, when you said that you were like, I felt this little back pain, did it raise any red flags inside of you, or you were just, and you talked your way out of it, or you were just like,
and that's what, honestly, it wasn't any different than it had been before. It wasn't even, I think it was more just a little back discomfort rather than even It wasn't a cramp. And my back was just a little sore.
Yeah.
And that happened all the time. And I had asked them about it before, and people joked I had a small body at the time, and I was carrying twins. I mean, I already looked full term for one baby at 25 weeks. And it was just a little, I just thought I needed IV, or I don't remember what, Tylenol.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it wasn't anything. And then throughout the night, I did feel constipated. And then that also I just blamed on diet, because that didn't seem that unreasonable. And I had just had my birthday a few days ago, and I had a lot of ice cream and a lot of treats and things like that. And I didn't get concerned until, the very, very, like a couple of minutes before it ended up happening. I was thinking like, oh, maybe I should call. And I was about to, and that day I felt perfectly fine. Like that day I actually had bumped into I got some twin gear from a friend and joked that I hoped I would make it to 36 weeks. So I had no idea I was having trouble. So, in the middle of the night. Yeah.
So that's what I was going to say. What time of the day was it that you got up?
5 a.m. is when it happened.
Okay. So you get up at 5 a.m. You feel like you have to go to the bathroom?
I was just uncomfortable, and I had been on the couch. So I stood up, and that's when I felt just one like jolt. And I ran to the bathroom. I didn't know that was my instinct, was to run to the bathroom. And the second I sat down, I lost my mucus plug. Okay. And then I made a noise. I don't remember if I screamed or just, I knew something was wrong because I knew what it was. Yeah. And my husband was across the hall in the bedroom, and he ran out. And then right when he got to me, so it had been maybe 5 seconds since I lost the mucus plug, my first baby came out just into the toilet. Because I didn't know. It wasn't even a slow, he literally just like flew out. Yeah. Like right after the mucus plug.
You were fully dilated, ready to rumble. Everything was happening. And so this is going to just sound crazy, but when you went for that last scan, did they check your cervix and they were like, everything's good. It's nice and long. Everybody's fine. Yeah.
And I've had my OB look back at it.
Yeah.
And everything was a normal measurement.
Yeah. So there was literally no signs. Your body was just like, this is happening. And so you deliver baby A comes out. Was the mucus plug, like, I'm going to like get TMI because at this point I'm okay. So you're sitting there and your mucus plug comes out. Is that still in the bowl and then baby A? So nothing even happened. You're just like shocked. You have no idea even what, do they talk to you about what your mucus plug was, that you even knew what to look for?
I was one of those anxious pregnant people before, but it's kind of funny this happened to me because I Googled everything all the time. Okay. I probably knew too much about what my body could be doing in pregnancy, and I never caught that I was having issues. Yeah. So I knew what a mucus plug was just from reading all my apps and pregnancy websites.
Okay. So now which it is, it's pretty clear of what it is. If anybody, a lot of twin parents don't even get to have that experience, that they never lose their mucus plug. So a lot of people don't, but it's basically like a wet, clumpy pack of tissues, let's say. Like it looks like very specific. So it's hopefully
like jelly-ish, like a big, And I lost the whole thing. I think like sometimes people lose it in pieces. Yeah. Like here and there, it was the whole, I'd never noticed it before. I'd never had anything.
So now you deliver baby A, and baby A, the umbilical cord is still
hanging for me. Yeah.
Okay. So now your husband's where when this is happening?
He's in the bathroom, and he actually called 911 and called it in as a stillborn.
Okay. So now everybody you're wilding out. Did you try to retrieve baby A, or did baby B come out too quick?
No. So first we didn't know what to, we were totally in panic mode, autopilot. I looked at him, and at first I didn't know what to do. And it probably was only up to 5 seconds, but I felt like it was too long. He was laying there, and then he kind of like twitched. So I was like, okay, he's something's happening. Like maybe he's not gone. So I picked him up, and my first instinct, I pulled open his chin and I tapped on his chest, and he took a breath.
Wow.
And yeah, and he then he was more alert. I mean, his eyes were closed and everything. He wasn't like an average newborn, but he his body, you could tell he was breathing.
Wow.
So after I did that, he was breathing, and I was just holding him and like holding him close because we didn't have anything to warm them up at the time. And then my husband was on the phone with dispatch, and then within a minute or two of him being born, and his name's James, right after he was born, I started feeling movement down below, like that my daughter was coming. So I gave James to Jeff. My husband is Jeff.
And the umbilical cord is still attached.
He still had
Okay.
We did not cut it, and that's the whole story too. We kept the umbilical cord, and it wasn't even so intentional as much as I think everything was going so fast we didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I had seen from ultrasounds that Vera, my daughter's name is Vera, baby B, that she was breech. So she came out breech, and her feet just started coming out of me, and I pulled her out myself, and I got her. I mean, I don't even remember exactly what, but I had to pull out her legs, and her shoulders were, harder to get out. And I pulled her out completely and held her, and she was blue, also not really moving. And I did the same thing. I opened up her chin and tapped on her chest, and she made like a little squeak as she took her breath, which was interesting. And so she had her umbilical cord too, and I was holding her. Jeff was sitting in front of me holding James. I don't even think we thought about getting towels to warm off at that point. I think we were just holding them. Within about 5 minutes of him calling 911, a first responder came, or a police officer came, and the poor girl, she was very sweet, but she was probably looked very new, like young 20s. She came in, the door was locked. Jeff had to run down and unlock the door for her, give me James, and she came in and she came to her bathroom and just jaw dropped, and she didn't know what. She just kind of stood there, and she kept calling on the walkie-talkie for other people to come, ambulance, and it took a total of about 20 minutes for paramedics to end up coming. So it was just us and the police officer just kind of standing, trying to be support, but she was more pacing the hallway and looking out the door. So we were on the front of dispatch while that was going on. She was there. We were still on the front of dispatch, and they told me to find anything we had and clamp the cords.
Okay.
To cut them. And I said that to Jeff, and he said, no. He was like, that doesn't sound right. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
So we chose not to. In the position we were in, I was still on the toilet holding Vera, and Jeff was right in front of the toilet. So the umbilical cord was kind of flat. It wasn't down. I was that. So we were just sitting there, not really doing anything, just holding them. Finally, paramedics came. They came in the bathroom, and they clamped the cords and wrapped them up in blankets and rushed them to each of their own ambulance. They rushed them to the ambulance and started getting them, I think, set up with cords and everything. And then they moved me to the couch to try to help me get my placentas out, because I never lost my placentas.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the towel I was on, and it was a Vera Bradley towel. We didn't really think of that in the moment, but it was funny because it was my daughter. But so the main paramedic was talking to me for a while and leading the other ones about what to do. He was a really nice older man. And about 10 minutes of me laying on the couch, one of the other ones came inside, and the old guy was like, "What are you doing?" He thought they had left, and they were just in that street. So they hadn't even left yet. So I think that's pretty much the gist of what happened at the house. I'm trying to think if there's there's questions that came up after once we got to the hospital. They rushed the three of us to the closest hospital near us.
Okay.
We're in Minnesota. We were west of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. We went to the first hospital, and they sent me to a room. The babies were in the huge incubator, and in the big life. I don't remember they were in the special kind of incubators they put babies in when they're being transferred. I was in the room by myself, and they brought with my husband, and they brought the babies to us to see them.
Okay.
And they were both stable for what they were. I mean, I did find out when they got to the hospital, James was sent to the resuscitation room.
Okay.
And I never heard more about what that meant. But I actually found that out in my ambulance, because as I was in the ambulance, now thinking back of it, it was pretty traumatic. I was there by myself, and my husband followed in a car, and the paramedic had his walkie-talkie. So I kept being able to hear everything they were saying about the kids.
Okay.
And in it, I heard him say, like, where is baby A or where is baby B? And they said they're in the resuscitation room. So I didn't know the whole ambulance ride, if they were going to be alive or not. I kind of assumed, right? I tried not to think about it, but I didn't. I was very just in shock. I didn't know what to expect. So the babies were only at that hospital to stabilize them.
Okay.
And then within 20 minutes or so, they were sent to Children's Minneapolis,
By
which is
air
a level
or by
4 NICU, by ambulance.
Okay.
They were able to, which was good. And that's a level 4 NICU in
Okay.
Minnesota, and a very good, it's connected to Abbott Hospital.
Okay.
So they were transferred there, and I was there, and they checked all my levels, and they stabilized me. And I didn't have high heart rate. I didn't have high blood pressure. Nothing looked bad. And so for me, they still 2.5 years later have not figured out
Okay.
why I had them.
So are they saying that it was an incompetent cervix, or like what was, did they give you, they're like nothing. They're like, yeah,
no,
we don't even know.
Yeah. They've said they didn't even consider it incompetent cervix, because it was fine throughout the pregnancy. So they didn't even say that. There's like, I think they just call it a precipitant birth.
Okay.
Or like a home, unassisted birth. They have and premature. They have there's nothing on my OB record of me like having an issue for having them early. It's just that I had a premature birth.
Okay.
Which I wish I could have closure for that to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you gone to any other specialists, or have they biopsied the mucus plug or anything like that? Or did anybody even collect that?
They didn't even offer it. I didn't know that was an option, honestly.
I don't know if it is, to be honest with you. I'm just naming.
That's
I'm
a
just
good
saying
idea.
things.
Yeah, they did. I mean, so they did tests on the babies for infections and things like that, to see if there was anything that could have caused them to come early. They also did not find anything for that.
Okay. So now you're in one hospital. The babies are in a separate hospital. How long does it take you to get to the kids?
They actually discharged me by noon.
Wow.
Because they said I should be with the babies, and they weren't concerned. So that's why they were so not concerned with me. They didn't have me do any follow-ups right after that about me. And it was a good hospital. I mean, I was a little concerned because is it a 6-week follow-up?
Yeah.
Because this was also at the beginning of COVID. So they did my 6-week follow-up virtual. And I asked to do it in person. They didn't think I qualified. Okay. So I was discharged that day, and my husband and I stopped at home and then drove to the hospital and started our NICU stay. Okay.
So 5 o'clock, you deliver the babies at home. Yes. Everybody is out totally by, let's say, 5:30-ish. Yeah. You call the ambulance. It takes 20 minutes for them to get you. Finally, the first chick shows up. She has no idea what's happening. She's just like, did nobody train me for this shit? Yeah. So like, I don't even know what's happening. So now she's waiting. The other ambulances come. They help you. You deliver your placentas on your couch.
Oh, so the placentas actually weren't delivered until the hospital. Sorry, they couldn't get them out.
Okay. So now,
yes.
Once you get to the hospital, they give you medication, which assists, or they give you nothing. They push.
My OB came and she pulled them out. She helped push them out and pull them out.
Okay. So now you deliver the placentas, and then they're like, okay, everything's good here. You could leave.
Yes.
Okay.
I think, and they made us rest. They waited. I think they told us I had to try to rest for like 20 minutes. So they were like, you need to calm, like you need to just for yourself, like lay down for a minute.
Okay.
But I didn't.
So you can't because your babies are someplace else. And if they're basically saying it's yellow light, it's going to be green light. You already see the green light and you're out of there. So you go to the other hospital, but you're not checked in as a patient to the other hospital.
No.
You're just a regular person off the street. And your babies are the patients in the hospital.
Yes.
Okay. So now your babies are in the NICU. They're in the full-on isolates. They're getting, were they intubated?
Yes.
So they were,
James was actually on the jet ventilator, which is like the oscillator, which is the, I'm pretty sure the most intense ventilator you can be on.
Okay.
He was on it for about a month.
Okay. Okay.
And then Vera started out on the standard ventilator. She was on a ventilator, not CPAP yet. She was on a ventilator, but not jet.
Okay.
But she was able to switch to what's called CPAP within about 4 days.
Wow. That's
we kind of had
incredible
opposite experiences with them. Yeah.
Okay. So, and she's your baby B.
Yes.
Okay. So now you're in the NICU and James was there for 112 days.
Yes.
And Vera was there for a whopping 99. She did not want to stay for the triple digit days. She wanted to get out of there.
Yes.
And you never even got a day in a hospital. No. And then as far as lactation goes, did they say like, hey, listen, Dana, we're going to give you this pump, just good luck. Because at this point, now they're just like, I feel like they're just going to throw things at you and be like, yeah, figure it out.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the NICU, did your milk come in at all?
It took me a little while. That was another struggle. I feel like I had a lot of separate struggles people have. I had extra trouble having it come in because I was on an anxiety medication that was safe for pregnancy, but I didn't know it was known to lower prolactin levels. So the prolactin, which is your hormone that helps you lactate, mine was incredibly low, which I didn't find out so my milk started coming in. First, it was the colostrum, the yellow. And then when my milk came in, I never got more than like a couple ounces at a time for the first few weeks. Like it seemed like it was okay at the beginning, but then it never went past that point.
Okay.
So I had my levels checked and they found out that prolactin was low. So I was able to switch medications, but it was kind of too late. So I did pump for a long time, but I never was able to nurse.
Okay.
And then with babies, they couldn't even have the milk for a long time. They couldn't nurse for me because they were on oxygen tubes. So I was giving them donor milk. The hospital had donor milk. I was giving them that for a long time. And then they were giving them what I could produce, but I never produced enough for a full bottle until after a couple of months, literally, I think almost about 3 months, I was starting to produce more where I was able to give 1 bottle each a day, I think was the most I was able to do.
Okay.
And the hospital, I will say, they had lactation consultants that stopped at the beginning. They stopped by pretty often, and then I could schedule with them and they would come about twice a week, or even anytime I really needed them, they would come. Because Children's Hospital is connected to Abbott, which is for adults too. So they work together. It's from Abbott. So they have a lot of resources for parents. So the lactation consultants are really great. They also had great social workers on site that walked us through a lot. A whole team of therapists and all of that.
All right. Well, hold that thought for 1 second. We're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about the support services that were available in the hospital. And I also want to talk about that eventual 112-day discharge. So
Yes.
sit tight, stay right there. All right, Dana, we're back. And I want to talk about the support services in the hospital, and I want to talk about the hospital discharge. But first, let's go to the support services. So now you mentioned that the NICU did have lactation that was available there for your assistance. And you did talk about the social worker that was there and you had some support. Because you didn't deliver in that hospital, and because technically now you don't have an OB team with that hospital, and it's only the NICU team and the neonatologists and, the respiratory therapists and all that stuff, like your babies have a team, but you don't necessarily have a team. How does it work when you are not a patient of that hospital to receive the support services, especially like those of the social worker?
Well, the services were definitely more family-based than individually for me.
Okay.
But the social worker was helpful because we had somebody assigned to our case and somebody for both babies. Of course, it was the same person. And she walked us through they qualified for Social Security. They qualified for the medical assistance in Minnesota because they weighed under 1,000 grams at birth.
Okay.
Which is about 2.5 pounds, I think. James weighed 2 pounds, 3 ounces. Vera was 2 pounds, 1 ounce.
Okay.
So they were both between 900 and 950 grams. So they qualified for a lot of services in Minnesota. So the social worker walked us through how to sign up for that.
Okay.
And she gave us paperwork that could have helped us with I think there was support for mortgages, but we didn't end up doing that. I don't think we quite qualified. But there's a lot of different support for families that you can get. A lot is financial based, but also a lot is based on their health. So with the 1,000 grams, I'm pretty sure the limit of your salary or income limit is a very high limit. Most people qualify for something still just because of the health of the babies.
Okay.
And then the hospital had a Ronald McDonald House down the hall. And then they also used to have group therapy for parents. There were parents could meet together and talk, but this also happened a month after the big rise of COVID. So this was April 2020.
Okay. So after the lockdown.
And so everything was locked down.
Okay. So you got to stay at the Ronald McDonald House in the hospital?
So that was closed.
That was closed too?
You could go in there to eat, but the hotel part of it was closed because of COVID.
Okay. So what emotional support services were available, if any?
Not really right there because of COVID. I mean, the social worker was probably the most, but no, nothing official.
Okay.
That I think there might have been a chaplain somewhere in the hospital, but they never connected, I don't think. And I don't know if that was open.
Okay.
But yeah, not much because of COVID. I mean, and everybody had I think people still have to wear masks all the time, but that was the start of that. And even for the food, you had to be very careful. And when you went to the Ronald McDonald House to eat, they wanted you to stay at least 6 feet away from other families. So you could talk, but you had to talk from a distance. Okay. So it was harder to meet other people.
Can I ask you another weird question? Did you ever get tested for COVID antibodies?
I don't think so, but I've never been positive for COVID.
You've never tested positive for COVID?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I still could have been without knowing, but
I've
never been positive.
Okay. So there isn't a significant amount of therapy. We're just literally going from a real world to a virtual world. You're literally caught in this web that is United States confusion. No one knows what's happening. You certainly don't know what's happening with your own family. Forget about the country. Could you even pay attention to what's happening to the country? Did you even really know what was happening, or were you in such baby land?
Yeah, a little of both. So the story has so many parts of it, but we were in Minnesota. We were right down the street from the George Floyd trauma. So we went on lockdown because of that too. The hospital we were in went on lockdown.
So when you were locked down, you got to be locked down in the hospital, or you were locked? Okay.
I could, but it was for 3 significant days of it, when it happened. And then after, they told that people went up to our room and were like, if you're going to leave, you need to leave within the next hour.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be locked down, or it'll be dangerous. And I did end up leaving. I never ended up staying the whole night, but it was really hard because we would stay there until usually 9 p.m. or something. But those days I had to leave at 5. So I missed a whole evening of being there. And that was scary too, because we would park in the parking garage across from the hospital. There's a walkway that would take you, and we would see all these like SWAT cars out in the hospital. There were more guards. The windows of the hospital were boarded up. I mean, it was literally on the same street on Chicago Avenue.
Okay.
As where it happened. It was just, I think, 12 blocks down. So on the same street. So when there were protests that happened, on that street, we saw protests walk through the street, and we had to change the way we were driving home too. But that was about a month or 2 into it.
Okay. So, but it's still only a month or 2 into it. I mean, what could it be? 6 weeks? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have like this unbelievable life trauma. And then 6 weeks later, the country goes into weird lockdown. Then there's riots and protests and civil unrest and confusion and sadness. And it's just a lot. What did your family do during this?
Well, they weren't allowed to visit. We couldn't have visitors in the hospital at that time. 0 visitors, just the parents.
Yeah.
It was hard. My family actually is in Texas.
Okay.
And then my husband's was there. So I didn't even see my family until we came home from the NICU. I didn't see anybody from my family.
Okay.
And my husband's mom and sister lived nearby, and his dad. But they were we didn't see them as much because we also had to be really careful. We had to try to not get sick ourselves.
Of course.
So, they checked which was great. They checked our temperatures every day, but we had to fill out this answer about symptoms. So we couldn't have any. So we were very careful at the beginning about seeing anybody, even on our own at our house.
Yeah.
But our families were they tried to communicate with us as much as they could, and send some gifts and care baskets, and we had some good friends.
Well, what were the best ways that they supported you, since they couldn't physically be there? When you're looking back now, what do you think were some of the greatest benefits that you received from your family? Because everybody, honestly, Dana, everybody always asks, what do we do?
Yeah.
How do we help them? What were the ways that you felt best supported?
I think really just talking. Somebody just reaching out. And even if you don't respond, just somebody at least saying hey, how are you doing? Or, hey, I'm thinking of you. That goes a long way, because sometimes I wasn't really wanting to talk, or if somebody kind of forced me to talk, it would actually end up being helpful.
Yeah.
And then people kind of bringing gifts unexpectedly. I'm somebody that I'm not good at asking for help. I'm horrible at asking for help. And if somebody asks me if I need something, I usually say no. So I think when people just sent it, DoorDash gift cards were great. But also while you're at the hospital, that was more when we got home. That was really nice, or for meals at home, because if you're at the hospital, we were lucky to have hospital food a lot of the time. But after a month or so, it was nice to get a break from that. But at first the food it was really just really, I think the number one thing is letting people know they're there. And it was hard at first too, because I knew, and people have told me now looking back at it, a lot of people including us, didn't know if the babies were making it. So not many people gifted baby things. And that was kind of hard though, because that made me that was good, but it was also wow, people are not doing this intentionally because they don't know if they're surviving. So that was hard. But I think personalized baby blankets were sweet, because that's still, even if something happened, that's nice to have. Just really showing the support and giving little, just thoughtful gifts to let somebody know that you're there, because there's not much to do.
Yeah. Now, how were things going between you and Jeff? How were you communicating well with each other? Did you shut each other down? Couples could really take this 2 ways. It either turns into where we can't be together anymore, or this made us stronger beyond any comparison.
During the NICU, it was really, good. He was great. We were good. He took off time from work too. I was done with work. I had been a preschool teacher and then my school closed anyways because of COVID. But I was done, and then I was planning on taking 16 months off anyways before I knew this was going to happen.
Okay.
But then he took off a little bit of time, and he was at the hospital. He was there every single day. I think he didn't go 2 days out of the 112. And I was there every day, but we drove home. We lived 40 minutes away. So we chose to sleep at our home.
Okay.
And the nurses, the first day we wanted to sleep there, but they were like, you need to just go home, have like a little bit of normal time.
Yeah.
And sleep in your own bed. But he was really great. He was really supportive. I think both of us have, been through some different things and some other trauma things in childhood, or that we just have a tolerance, I think, built up, or both of us were on autopilot together and just really there for each other and there. And we both wanted the baby so badly. Like he struggled with the infertility too. And I think just knowing when they were born, we didn't know if they were going to be alive. So the fact that they were alive and doing, I think we were both just grateful and just going with the flow and just seeing what would happen. But we were, good with each other. There've been harder moments on and off, since then. Like, because I know you'll talk about it later, but we still have had some health scares with them and a lot of medical appointments and different things. So other things have happened, but overall, we're strong and we've been doing well.
So let's talk about that. Before discharge, what type of medical interventions did they have to receive for the 112 days that James was there? What exactly did he have to kind of go through?
So at the beginning, he was the sicker one. We didn't really, up until he was off that ventilator, we had a few sit-down talks. They sat us down saying they didn't know what the outcome would be. The doctors, the neonatologists. So one thing with him when he was born in the toilet. He ended up getting I think it was a staph infection actually in his eye, but it ended up being okay. But he got an infection due to the toilet, which I felt horrible about. But luckily he hasn't had any issues due to that and it's over. But that was really hard. He also had grade 2 brain bleeds with dilated ventricles. And that goes from grade 1 is the most mild and usually goes away on its own. Grade 4 is severe. A lot of kids, don't end up having an average life. And grade 2 can go either way. And he had that. So he had to have, I think they did a brain scan maybe even every day to check if it was growing. And he also was born with a PDA, a hole in his heart. And some kids have to get surgeries to close it up. He did not, but he did have to get on the medication. I think it was, I don't know if it was Tylenol or what. It is the common one other kids have to get on for that. I think it's something like Tylenol. And that eventually closed it up. And his lungs were very, very sick. He had both his lungs collapsed at different times. His oxygen was very low on its own a lot of the time. So he had that ventilator. And he, at one point, started having issues with his kidney, his bladder. He wasn't urinating and they couldn't figure out why. And they found out he had a blood clot in his kidney. And it was from his PICC line, which is one of the lines that gives nutrients. And so they removed it and the blood clot went away. But then a few days after that, his respiratory health got very bad and his heart rate was having issues. And one of the nurses asked to do an ultrasound of that. And they found out the blood clot had moved up. It didn't go away. It moved up and got stuck in his pulmonary artery between his lung and his heart. And he had that actually, that didn't go away until he turned 1. So we were on extra medication. What was it called? He was on we had to give him Lovenox shots.
So
they did that through the
A
hospital.
blood thinner.
Yep. And we had to do that at home twice a day. And then it went away right after his first birthday. And then he those were the big things, but he had the ROP in his eyes. He had to have about 4 blood transfusions.
And so while James was having all these things, Vera was just growing and everything was okay.
She was lucky. She was pretty stable. She had a grade 1 brain bleed, and that went away on its own. She had a grade 1, and then she had a small PDA. Actually, her PDA ended up also, she had to have medication, but then it went away.
Okay.
And then she did have to have, I think, 2 blood transfusions because her levels were low. But then besides that, they said she was having a boring NICU stay.
Yeah. Like boring is great, standard. Right? It's like, if you think about it, that's the best description of any NICU stay.
Yeah. And so they both were on those Billy Rubin lights. Sorry. They had for weeks. But she was a lot healthier than him.
It's baby bees. I mean, he paved the way for her. So he took the hit here, this poor little monkey. So now when she was discharged at 99 days, how ready were you for them to come home? Like, were you apprehensive? Were you like, nope, this is where we live now. We live in a NICU. Was it a hard transition to come home?
Very relieved, but we were scared. I was scared just because they had been, we had somebody helping us all the time. And they did wean us a little, like toward the discharge. They had us do more of the diapers and us do. They taught us how to do more things, but, and she was going home without an oxygen monitor and, like with nothing. She didn't have anything at the time. So it was kind of scary. Like, wow, like this baby has been so fragile.
Yeah.
Cause she did well, but she still was, she was sick. So she still had a lot of, compared to that, but but so it was scary. But that was one thing I will say for people. I know everybody gets really sad when they bring one baby before the other, and it is hard, but I was able to bring her as a visitor with me. And I was just able to bring her to visit James the next 13 days. And I could still, they shared a room. And they kept her crib there, and I could still ask questions. I could still, they kind of helped walk me through things at home with her. And the nurses were really supportive, and it was kind of nice. Also transitioning one baby at home. So starting to know what it was like with one baby before we added another, and then also getting some support from the hospital for her.
So now when James was released, right? So like 13 days later, James comes home. Was he on, a bunch of things? Was he pretty much just let him loose?
So he made a big turnaround. Yeah, he did not have to go home. Neither of them went home on feeding tubes or oxygen. Okay. Which is a lot of kids born early have at least one. And so he made a big turnaround. He did, since we were home, they both had to have a lot of visits with pulmonology for lungs and cardiology for heart. And then he had we had to go to the, neurologist and neurosurgeon once a month to get a scan of his brain. But since the NICU, nothing grew. And he's actually been doing great. So he was finally this past June diagnosed with mild cerebral palsy, but it does not affect him cognitively. At his 2-year checkup, he tested 41 months for communication and language and cognitive. So
he's got a lot to say.
Yes. So cerebral palsy he does have because of the brain blades. And then the result of that is he has stiffness in his right leg and his knee and his ankle. So he walks with kind of a limp, and he still goes to physical therapy every 2 weeks.
But he's walking on his own.
Yeah.
And
so he made milestones. Yeah. He walked at 17 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slowly, but he took his first steps at 17 months. Yeah.
And so now what does the future look like?
Pretty good. I mean, still, it's still overwhelming with just having to even just do appointments for maintenance, but we're on a good track. For James, he's going to have to continue physical therapy, and he might need to get a a brace on his legs.
Okay.
Like an AFO brace. But we just moved actually. So we're having to find a new physical therapist, and he'll might have that for a while and then just continue physical therapy, but there shouldn't be any surgeries or anything for that. They said there's a chance they can give Botox for that to loosen the joints, but otherwise he's okay. Respiratory wise, they both go to a pulmonologist, and they did end up so they have chronic lung disease. That's another thing. Most preemies end up being diagnosed with that. Yep. Vera has actually had worse lung issues since than James. But we have found, the key is to find a great team, and the hospital we're at luckily has good teams that do outpatient. Yeah. And our pulmonologist was amazing and they both have a plan. And they have inhalers every day. And then when they get sick, they have a separate plan. So that'll be pretty long term. Okay. But it's under control.
And that's fairly typical preemie, especially that early, even without a emergency toilet delivery. Yeah. I mean, that's very typical for that gestation. So how do you honestly, I love them. Good. I'm happy for James and Vera, but how are you?
I'm good. I mean, sometimes I feel like a lot of times this is we're getting past this, but then things will happen that remind me of it, and it's hard. But I'm very lucky. Jeff has been we've been supportive with each other, and that's very helpful. And having family that's there. But we have done a lot of it mostly on our own, because we didn't have a lot of family around. We had some, but not a lot. I was not in therapy at first. I started therapy, I think when they were 5 months old, maybe 6 months old. I should have, no, actually I waited a year. Sorry. Okay. I started therapy a year. I was in therapy before I got pregnant, and then I stopped. And then I waited a year because I am somebody that I say I'm okay a lot when maybe I'm not, but I act cheery, so I need somebody to push it out of me. Yeah. But I did go to therapy for a while. That was pretty helpful. And it was hard with COVID, being separate. That made it a lot harder, being away. I'm okay. I feel like luckily my degree's in human development and family studies, but I've been in early childhood for 13 years. So I know a lot about kids, and that makes me feel more confident, I guess. I have had to change, figure out some things that work. I went back to work at 16 months with them at my school with me, and it was a 7-hour day. That was okay. And then I took on a really big job in the summer. I was actually director of a preschool in June, and that was what I always wanted. So I got the opportunity and I took it, but I realized that's not it was too much. I can't prioritize work over my kids. Yeah. We ended up moving anyways, but I have realized some things that work more for me. I need more time to have more time for appointments for them. I think if I give myself more scheduled time, it's not as stressful to make the appointments. So it's really hard when you have to move work around. It's really hard when you have other things. So I've been lucky that I can work less. Okay. But some days are so hard. 3 weeks ago, they both got COVID from school. And we went to the ER twice with James because he ended up also he had COVID, he had enterovirus, which is going around the rhinovirus. Mm-hmm. He had hand, foot, and mouth, and he had a double ear infection. So really, he got a fever of 104.5 and his oxygen was 89. So things still happen. We'll think everything's going really great, and then sometimes their immune system still, prove to us that they're preemies.
It's going to be, unfortunately, to just throw it out there. It's that way for a minute, with preemies. It could be like that for 10 years. There is, eventually it all comes out in the wash. But, there's preemies that, within 3 years, everything seems pretty typical. There's some within 5 years, but even me delivering at 34 and change, I still had issues at 11 with respiratory issues. It's it's whatever cards get thrown at us, not even dealt. They're just flung at our faces. We have to deal with them. It's, it's very, very difficult. I feel really, really bad in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying that to give you, like, oh, I feel bad for you. But in all sincerity, like if nobody told you how freaking amazing you are, like honestly, like there should be something on your mirror that when you go into, any room of your house, it would be like, "Psst, Dana, you're
Thank
a
you.
rock star." Because it's, we say that, well, God can only give us, what we handle. I don't even know, that it's a whole different topic for a different day, but
Yeah.
you are unbelievably dealing with this. And a lot of times I think like I would say, like, thank God that James and Vera have you as their mother. Like had they been
Thank you.
born into a different family, it might be very different for everybody. It's unbelievable. And we're very lucky. And I'm tell Jeff I love him too. I don't even know him, but like I'm now invested in this. But you get to kind of sit where you are now and you look back. And how old are the puppies now?
2.5.
So
on the 27th, they're like 2.5.
So we're almost coming up to our big third birthday, which is a big transition too for early intervention, right? So now we have this kind of big monumental kind of step when you're looking back at things. Besides, of course, that everybody's okay and we're making it through, what are some of the things that you're grateful for and that you realize like these were, miraculous things that happened and thank goodness we did things this way?
Yeah, lots of things. One, just from the beginning, when we talked about the umbilical cords in their position and how they asked us to cut them, later the doctors told us that was one of the things, or maybe the thing that saved their lives, because they were still getting nutrients from them. And somehow, miraculously, how I was sitting and how Jeff was sitting, the angle was working to do it the right way. And not because sometimes it can do the opposite, it can cut off circulation, but somehow the way we're doing it was helping and giving them oxygen. And we didn't really honestly think that through. I mean, I think I was more worried about putting like rusty scissors on it or something, but that happened to maybe be the initial thing that really helped. And I'm grateful for all the support the hospital gave, really. I mean, I know not everybody is lucky enough to have a good experience with their hospital, but almost every nurse that was there, we had great experiences with. The doctors were amazing. One of my favorite things was their neonatologist there and the specialist there took their time to talk. Each time they weren't the type of doctors that would just usually like rush in and not care what you're saying and rush out. Like a lot of them would just sit down and talk, and they said really nice things and would take their time to get to know us. And that meant a lot to me because I have a big pet peeve of talking to somebody being able to tell they're in a rush. And I feel like a lot of doctors do that. Yeah,
they definitely do. That's like a tip that we give everybody at Twiniversity is always use the staff people, because the staff, if you have your pediatrician come from home, they are going to rush you. It's when you get to have the staff folks that they really can spend the time with you, which is great. But that wasn't even anything that recommended to you. That's just the way that it went.
It was a great, And then I think, really, it sounds generic, but the support of my family and friends and the people that stuck with us. Yeah. Because I felt like sometimes, I guess this type of event, which people call traumatic, it's hard for me to admit it's like a traumatic event because I don't know, because I went through it, but it's not the same as going through like death of a loved. I'm not going to commit completely that, but I lost my dad 11 years ago. And, at first everybody like talks to you and really cares. And after a while that kind of trickles away. And then a lot of people don't know what to say or stop talking or stop checking in. And it was kind of like that. Like a lot of people gave attention at the beginning and really cared. And then it was interesting to see who stayed and who continued to check in and who has continued and who continues to care. So I think really grateful for the people that really stepped up and were really genuine, because it is similar to those event, just a life event where, at first people care and I'm sure they still care, but they forget to check in.
Yes. Out of sight, out of mind too. You know, and COVID certainly didn't help with that, with people not being able to visit you and the kiddos and stuff. So now what does your days look like? Like, or do you have therapists that are coming to the house on a regular basis? Are you going out for therapy? Is there no therapy? What is a regular day in the life of you guys look now?
So right now we're really lucky. I mean, compared to what it could be, most of their appointments are follow-up appointments every few months or so. Our life is actually a little weird right now. I mean, maybe this, but we just moved to Texas, back to my family 2 days ago. So it is not a normal in the day.
It's always good to schedule a podcast on day 2 of moving to a different state. Always great.
I wanted to get it out of the way and I was excited to talk.
Thanks.
So I'm in
Thanks for getting me out of the way. I appreciate it.
I'm in an empty room, so it might be echoing. No, I was super excited. I guess I should say I wanted to get this done because I was excited to do it. But
even if you got out of the way, I still love you. It doesn't matter. I'm so happy. I'm thrilled that you're talking to us.
But I guess like a few weeks ago, my husband works full time. He's a buyer at a floral warehouse. I was a full-time director of preschool. So, and before that I was a teacher. But so we were lucky where the only appointments that we were having was physical therapy every 2 weeks for James, and Vera gets to go and play. She loves. And then, right now we're very fortunate. It's just a pulmonologist every 3 months, eye doctor every 6 months. And when they get sick though, it's like 5 pediatrician appointments in 2 weeks. Yeah. But when they're healthy, we're very lucky. We were having early intervention also once a month. Vera they just said she doesn't qualify anymore for this school year. I do wonder if eventually she might, like she talks, but her diction is a little harder to hear. But James has perfect like diction where people look at him in public and are like, how old is this kid? Because he talks more than he should. So so Vera is testing well on everything and she doesn't need it anymore. But James, because of his cerebral palsy, still qualifies. Yeah. So those are the only things. I mean, the kids love to go outside. We go on walks. We have a dog and 2 cats. Perfect. Yeah. So right now, pretty normal. It wasn't even like this 6 months ago. I mean, we're very lucky. The first year, especially after the NICU was, I think I wrote once on my social media, it was like an average of 4 appointments a week for about the first year. Yeah. It's a minute. It's changed a lot.
It is. It's, it takes some time and now you're looking into the future. Now you're in warmer weather too, which is good. What are some of the things that you're most looking forward to?
Right now, spending more time with my kids and my nephews because we've been so busy lately. It's been hard to just really take advantage of being together. We have more time right now. I'm not working for at least the next 2 months or so. And then maybe January I'll start again. But right now I'm home with them. We're moving. Their nephew is 2 months younger than them. I mean, their cousin is 2 months younger than them. And then they have another cousin here. These are my sister's kids that was just born in June. So we have family here. My mom's here. So a lot of time outside exploring. I think today we're going to the children's aquarium later this afternoon with my sister. So really just enjoying what we have. We are going to be getting involved. So part of my life, I do have to make a lot of phone calls. So I have to get new pediatrician and specialists and PT. So we do have to start signing up for getting them reassessed in Texas.
All right. So you got some things to do and unpacking some boxes and running outside and snuggling new babies and being with your mom that you haven't been with a while. I mean, this is all really, really good things. Your future is looking bright and literally physically bright from getting out of the snow, moving down to the sweltering heat. But you guys still get snow every once in a while in Texas, which always confuses me.
I'm like, it never snows here. My sister's like, it snowed once last year.
Yes.
Well,
That's
Not
still
quite
though.
the
I'm
same,
like,
but-
what exactly is going on? Yes, because I
Yeah.
think Texas like shuts down with a flurry.
Yes.
Their roads don't know what to do with it. Like if you
Yes.
live up north where we're used to snow, we're like, please,
Mhm.
please,
Yeah.
hold my beer, Texas. This is nothing.
Yeah.
You got a flurry.
I know, it'll
Oh my
be-
gosh. Dana, honestly, I'm so thankful that you seriously, with everything that you have going on, that you took time to talk to us. And I'm genuinely very, very appreciative. So thank you so much, Dana, for talking to us
Thank
today.
you.
And
Thank you for having me.
oh, ridiculous.
You-
Nope. The
you
pleasure
were
is
the
literally all ours.
first- You were the first pregnancy book I bought, actually, or had bought for me. So what to do when you're having two. So
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I wish that it could have been more practical. If you even read the NICU stuff, there might have been a few good things in there from one NICU mom to the other. But I'm going to give you your money back for the book because I feel that you didn't get there. But you never know. That's it. Maybe when Vera has her twins, you could pass it down. So that's the way that it goes.
Right.
But Dana, honestly, I'm excited to follow you guys and to stalk your family on social and watch everybody grow and be happy, and especially in your new surroundings. So thank you so much for playing.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a
Don't
good day.
You too. Now, guys, if you have any questions for me or for Dana, you could email us at community@twiniversity.com. If you need anything from us ever, make sure that you always stalk us on social too. You could send us a DM, as the kids say, slide into our DMs anywhere on any platform at any time. We're just at Twiniversity. And until next time, guys, see you later, alligators. Thanks for listening.